Welcome to City Life. I'm Beverly Thompson. Without a doubt, last year was an eventful year for Durham's Police Department, with questions about officer-involved shootings, allegations of profiling, and the police department's relationship with the community. Joining me today to tell us exactly where the department stands on those and other issues are Chief Jose Lopez and Deputy Chief Larry Smith. Welcome, Chief Lopez and Chief Smith. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
So, Chief Lopez, I can imagine the Durham Police Department must have felt like it was under fire from every corner last year. I mentioned a few of those issues in the opening. How do you feel the police department has responded overall?
I think overall we've responded very responsibly, and we've tried to put out what information at the time that we would have. But using everybody's 2020, we found some shortcomings, some things that we could have done better that we're working on to make sure that in the future the community gets as much information as we could possibly give them at the time.
So I think it probably must have been really personal for you. How has it affected the morale of the police department overall?
Well, first of all, I don't take that personally. I think that a lot of people were complaining and had concerns about circumstances that had occurred with the limited information they had at the time.
Gotcha.
But as far as the organization is concerned, the officers, I know that they were hurt by some of the allegations because they knew them to be untrue, but at the same time, they're very dedicated to this community, and it kind of bothered them that this community would think ill of them, when in fact they're trying very hard to work out there. And quite frankly, if you look at the way crime continues to work its way down a bit, that they're out there working every day.
Having a great impact.
I think so.
Yeah. So, Chief Smith, the SBI investigations into all of those high-profile cases that received so much coverage, like the Jose Ocampo case and Derek Walker case, the SBI report indicates that the police department essentially did nothing wrong. You followed procedure. I must also mention that the SBI has yet to release their findings on the Huerta case as well. Can you tell us where we are with internal investigations that you're doing on those cases as well?
Sure, but before I start, I want to offer our condolences again to the families that were involved in these incidences. And as you mentioned, you said to the SBI, I think it's important for you viewers to understand that when the SBI is conducting an investigation, that's a criminal investigation. They're looking to see if our officer violated any criminal law. And as you stated, they've completed the investigations into the Ocampo and Walker case. What they found is we did not violate any state statutes. We, in turn, we do an internal investigation at the same time to see did we violate any of our departmental policies. And certainly our policy as it relates to the use of force mirrors state law, but there's other policies in play during situations like that. And on those two investigations that we haven't completed, we did find that we did not violate any of our policies or procedures. And as you stated, we're just waiting to complete our internal on the Huerta case once the SBI completes their criminal investigation.
Okay, all righty. So, Chief Lopez, there were so many allegations against the police department, and one of them was that the police department was not transparent about these cases. Do you think that's the case?
I think that the cases that there were things that we could not speak to responsibly, understanding, of course, that we're held accountable for everything we say. So we have to be careful as far as what we put out there. We have to make sure that, first of all, the information that we're giving is actually factual. And also we have to be conscious, especially in these cases where other agencies were investigating, that we didn't compromise their cases by making statements and misleading the public in reference to it. So we try to be transparent because we cannot answer a question. Doesn't mean that we're hiding something. It just means that we're being very responsible. Unlike many other entities that can say what they want, whether it's factual or not, and not have to worry about the outcome of it.
Okay. Chief Smith, another case that created a lot of media attention was the case of the NCCU student whose case was recently dismissed by the district attorney's office. Apparently, he was arrested and was in jail for 24 days following reporting a man who was apparently dead. He was lying in the street, dead. In this case and in general, what do police have to take into consideration when they decide whether to arrest somebody or not? I don't want to talk specifically about this case, but in general, what do people need to know when you make an arrest?
Sure. The standard for making an arrest in any case, Beverly, is probable cause. And in a nutshell, probable cause is that amount of information that would lead a reasonable person to believe that the person we arrested likely committed the crime. That's a much lesser burden of proof than beyond reasonable doubt, which is what a jury requires to convict someone. And in this particular case, we had an eyewitness, and that created that probable cause. And in the words of the ADA who was interviewed about this in the paper, we would have been remiss in our duties if we hadn't have made that arrest. Now, we hate it took 24 days to work through the facts of this case to determine that this young man was not involved. There's a lot of moving parts in that, a lot of issues that we can't discuss, specifically here, but we had probable cause in that case to make an arrest.
Okay, all righty. So Chief Lopez, apparently the police did not make a mistake in arresting him. I'm sure you would say that. But as unfortunate as it is, how can something like this happen?
Well, as in that case, we did use probable cause as we do in all our arrests, but we had a victim witness who not only pointed him out, but he also fit the description that had been given to the police earlier. And so we had a responsibility to make an arrest. Of course, we continued to look into it. We didn't just go by the victim's assertions. We looked further into it, and then we found and had some concerns about the identification. So we went to the prosecutor's office with those concerns, and subsequently he was released.
Okay, all right. Thank you guys for talking to me about that. We're going to take a quick break right now, though. And when we come back, we're going to talk about some of the recommendations by the Human Relations Commission for the police department. We'll be right back.
Looking for these? You drive buzzed. It could be one very expensive ride.
First, you gotta make bail. Then pay me to get your car back.
Your insurance premiums will go through the roof.
And my legal fees just keep adding up. All told, it could end up costing you $10,000.
Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.
The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life.
Ready or not, here I come.
Take time to be a dad today.
Daddy, I'm gonna find you.
Welcome back. A few months ago, Mayor Bill Bell asked the Human Relations Commission to look into allegations of racial profiling in the Durham Police Department. As a part of their review, the commission also addressed the workings of the Citizens Review Board. I'm with Chief Lopez and Deputy Chief Smith of the Durham Police Department. Thanks for staying with me. So Chief Lopez, at the time of this tape in the Human Relations Commission's final report has not been provided to Council. So I'm not going to ask you to address any of the recommendations or anything like that, but I would like for you to talk in general about the report and how you plan to address the Commission's recommendations.
Well, the Commission's recommendations are going to go to the City Council, who in turn will sit down with the City Manager and speak to him about what the recommendations that were made are. And at some point, the City Manager and I will sit down and we'll look at what direction we're going to take in regards to the recommendations that are made.
Okay. Well, in general, I know the Human Relations Commission actually looked into some issues that they thought the police department needed to address, as said by the mayor. And Chief Smith, I know you've said repeatedly that the police department does not racially profile, and actually released a detailed response to the Human Relations Commission's questions. What is the decision-making process when a person is stopped and an officer wants to do a search?
Sure. There's several things that come into play when an officer decides to make a search of a vehicle. There's two types of searches. There's a consent search and there's a probable cause search. I'll deal first with the consent search. Officer doesn't have to really have any reason to ask for consent. They can ask for consent for any or no reason. However, a citizen has a right to say no. But there are some factors that an officer would take into consideration to ask for consent, because we don't ask for consent to search vehicles that often based on the number of vehicle stops that we do. But they would take things into consideration like nervousness of the driver. And I know everyone is nervous when they're stopped by the police, but as officers we do a lot of vehicle stops and we detect that ultra nervousness. Is it a high crime area? Is the vehicle in proximity to a crime? Those are some of the things an officer would take into consideration when deciding to even ask for consent. And then there's a probable cause search. Now, we talked about probable cause a little bit earlier, but it's the same as before. It's that amount of information that an officer can articulately put down that would lead them to believe that there's evidence of a crime in that car. Some examples of that may be the vehicle matches the description of a crime, the officer stops the vehicle and has reason to believe that fruit of that crime is in the car. They could search that car based on probable cause. The odor of marijuana would be probable cause to search a car. And also, an officer sees something. Let's say he approaches the car, sees what looks like drugs or drug paraphernalia or a weapon. The officer could search on probable cause even without the consent of the driver.
Okay, all right. Another issue that was brought up was racial equity and crisis intervention training, Chief Lopez. Do you feel this is something that is needed, or is it already being addressed?
Well, as far as racial profiling, all that is being addressed through a lot of the training that we've been doing. Prior to, I mean, ever since I've been with this police department, we've had training not only from the police department, but also through the state. We have called in and hired consultants. We go through the city, because I know the city has various courses regarding diversity, regarding racial profiling. And all of those also are incorporated into a lot of the training that we have at the police academy when a police officer comes in. And as we speak now, we're looking into possibly going through a consultant to have some additional training specific to law enforcement as it pertains to diversity. So in essence, we have been going through the training and we'll continue to do so.
Okay. If I could I go back to the arrest or actually stops, let's just say stops throughout the city. Do you tend to set up stops where you call? I mean, do citizens call in and say we're concerned about this area of town where suspicious activity is taking place? Or do you just decide you're going to set up a stop anywhere throughout the city, randomly?
Well, I think you're referring to a traffic check.
Yeah.
Yeah, and officers will set up traffic checks just randomly.
Randomly.
And it's set up specifically to check for license information and those things. But we leave that to our supervisors to set those up. And sometimes we get complaints of speeding and any other number of things in areas that may prompt, an officer to do a license check.
I was just wondering what impact citizen calls have to do with where you tend to concentrate areas.
I think what plays into more to where you're going is if we're getting a lot of complaints about crime in a particular area, that's going to prompt us to have more law enforcement personnel in that area.
I see.
More law enforcement personnel is generally going to result in more enforcement action,
I gotcha.
which is not necessarily the traffic stop or the license checkpoint, but just vehicle stops in general.
Okay.
Just because we have more officers in that area at the request of citizens who are concerned about the crime.
That's what I wanted to
And
ask
we get a lot of calls regarding traffic violations that do cause us to set up in some places.
Okay, all righty. So Chief Lopez, in general, what do you think some of the most common misperceptions about the Durham Police Department are?
I think the misperceptions that exist are from a lot of the historical data that exists in law enforcement in general, and also a lot of the stories that people have about things that happened to them years ago or happened to a relative that concerns them, and they believe that it's still going on, and we're not given the opportunity to show that it's not going on today. We do continue to monitor what's put out there. We're trying to work with the community in order to get them factual information about what's happening, why we do things. So that's basically where I think it's going. I'm hopeful that the community is open-minded enough to see that, and to see that this is the Durham Police Department in 2014 is not the Durham Police Department that they may know historically. And I've been here since 2007, which is going on 7 years at this point in time. And I think this is a different much more productive and progressive police department.
And I know when you attend PAC meetings, I hear nothing but, well, at least most of the time, great things about the police department, great comments, and your resident satisfaction survey numbers.
Well,
are good.
that too. We've been to Coffee with Council, and the last 5 of them, and very few issues regarding police, but mainly a lot of praise about the police department. Been through a lot of other meetings where the community is just asking for more police. I repeatedly get letters sent to the police department about the good work that officers do in many different sections of the town and incidents. I get stopped on the street all the time. It's always positive about the police department. I think that the city as a whole really has a very positive view about the police department. That's also exemplified in the manner in which the community is willing to work with us and continues to do so. So, you know, I just believe that although you may hear some negativity, a lot of that is founded in the past, and the majority of the people in the city do realize that we are working very much for this community.
Chief Smith, can we address one more issue about transparency and the Human Relations Commission's recommendations, which have not been released yet? But are you planning to do anything differently to communicate to the public about what the police department is doing or about specific incidents?
Yes, we are. Right now, Beverly, what we're doing, we're training all our lieutenants and above in media training. We've hired a consultant. He's coming in. It's a 3-day training for all of our officers because we want to get more information out. And when you have just a limited few of people who we feel comfortable with the camera, it can limit you. So all of our lieutenants and above are going to be trained, and so when we have an incident in a district, we can get someone out, hopefully in front of a camera or get more information out. Not only the negative, but the positive, because there's a lot of positive things going on, like the chief said.
Right.
And so we're going to try to start playing those things up a little bit more, some of the good work that's going on in our department. And then also, you know, we've just come through 3 very high-profile instances, back to back, which each one within itself would have been a large media event, but when you put the 3 together, it was quite a year, like you started out saying. And I think we all learned something from that, and I think we just had some recent conversations with some pastors, and one said that if we could have just maybe done better at giving a timeline of what these things, you know, to come out and say, this is why this is taken, and we suspect that this will be done at this point, and this will be done at this point. That would have been helpful. And so we learned something along the way in this, we did, and as the chief said, and so we're going to be mindful of that as we go forward, but hopefully we'll never have a situation where we have 3 such high-profile instances back to back that we have to deal with.
I'd say it's always 2020, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So how can our residents keep up with what's going on in the Durham Police Department?
Well, you know, when I talk to folks and they ask me what's going on, it still surprises me when I ask them, are you a member of your PAC? And they'll say, well, what's that? And I explain to them Partners Against Crime. And so I would encourage your viewers, if they're not a member of their PAC, to reach out to their district commander, find out where their PAC meets and when it meets, and start attending. We're there. We give updates on what the department's doing. As you know, other members of city government are there. It's just a good way for them to get to know their neighbors and know the city officials and get information from us. Our Facebook page.
All right.
If your viewers are watching, if you hadn't liked the Durham Police Department Facebook page, please like the Durham Police Department. We put a lot of information out through that way.
You do.
And then I mentioned recently we had some conversation with some pastors, and they had some ideas about maybe getting some information through their congregations.
Okay. So Chief Lopez, do you have any final closing thoughts?
Well, quite frankly, the safety in the city, the accelerated quality of life is dependent and falling on the community. The secret lies within the community as far as working with its police department and making sure that we get the information about their concerns and also about the activity that's happening in the community, especially where it leans towards violence, people with firearms, kids involved in violence, planning it, to speak to the police department and give us an opportunity to reach out and address those issues. Take a moment of trust is basically all we're asking for, and I don't think we'll let them down. Quite frankly, we work with so many other entities in the city. Right now, our Crime Stoppers has been very active as far as identifying individuals who are wanted, suspects in crimes, and at the same point in time, the people who have given us that information have been safe. No one's been injured behind it because it is anonymous. We also have sat down with various community groups reference to their issues to include a group that we're working with now, and we're talking about pedestrian bicycle safety as such, and looking to see about making it a lot better in the city for our pedestrians, our bike riders, you know, so because we've had too many incidents and we're trying to minimize fatalities that way. And that's just an example of the different ways that the police department is working with many individuals in the city who've taken a moment to trust us, and we've been able to at least make the quality of life better here in the city of Durham.
Great. Okay. Thank you both for joining me. Very informative.
Thank you for having us.
All right. Thank you. Stay with us, because after this short break, we're going to share some exciting news about this year's Bimbe Festival and why you don't want to miss it. We'll be right back.
Environmental protection and a strong economy go hand in hand. Between 1970 and 2011, emissions of common air pollutants dropped by nearly 70%, while the U.S. gross domestic product grew by more than 200%, and private sector jobs increased by 88%. Climate change is bringing new challenges and new opportunities. Americans have the skills and technologies to meet this challenge and grow a clean energy economy. Let's act now on climate change.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
Welcome back to City Life. I'm Beverly Thompson. Spring is here, and with it comes the Bimbé Cultural Arts Festival. Joining me to talk about what's new with this year's event and why you don't want to miss it are K97.5 host Brian Dawson and Cynthia Booth, who's with Durham Parks and Recreation. Welcome to you both.
Thank you for having
Thanks for having us.
Brian, let's get started with you. You have been the official host of this wonderful event for so many years now. Why do you keep coming back?
Well, I love it. I expanded my role, so my new name is the Entertainment Ambassador.
Oh, gotcha.
They asked me to join, I think, about 4 years ago, and each year my role has expanded. And it's just an exciting event for me because it's my first memory of Durham. I moved here from Virginia, and the first thing I ever did was go to a Bimbé, which was at Hillside Park at that time.
Okay.
So to actually be a part of this historic event, from watching it to being a part of it, has just been awesome.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about the event then. I know our viewers are going to want to hear what they can do, how they can have so much fun at this free event.
It's free. That's the big word. It's free, and it's for the family. It's for the community. It's one of the rare events that you can bring everybody out to. You don't have to leave the kids at home, and kids don't have to leave the parents at home. It's a celebration about music. It's a celebration of our culture. It's a chance for the city to come together through music and through entertainment. It's just a spectacular day.
Okay, cool. So Cynthia, in past years, Bimbé has always been held in the heart of downtown Durham, and you have a new location this year. So it's a little change there, huh?
We do have a small change there. Durham is thriving, and a lot of construction's going on downtown, so we've had to move the festival to Rock Quarry Park, which is on 701 Stadium Drive. And hopefully people will come out. It's going to be the same fun-filled event.
Okay, well, tell us about the entertainers who are going to be there.
Oh my goodness, it's going to be so exciting. We have from the African American Dance Ensemble to reggae, R&B, jazz, gospel, all kinds of artists that are going to perform. And the event will culminate with a performance by Nice and Smooth, DeBrat, and Biz Marquee.
Okay, sounds like a lot of fun.
It is.
So tell us when the day is, or what day it's going to be held and the time.
It's going to be Saturday, May 17th, and it's from 12 p.m. to 8 p.m. So people can come out the whole day, bring their family, as Brian said, and just have a fun-filled day of great entertainment.
Okay. So do they bring their own seats or own?
Yes, we do encourage people to bring their own lawn seating. They can bring their blankets, and just be prepared to groove to all types of different music.
Okay. Now, I know the main event happens on May 17th, but you have events planned for the whole week. Or activities planned for the whole week.
We do. On Wednesday, we'll start with a Bimbé Old School Block Party. We're going to have that at Lion Park, and it's going to be from 6 to 8. That event, too, is free. And then on Wednesday, we'll have a basketball tournament. Brian can share a little bit more information about that.
Okay.
And then on Friday, we'll have the Bimbé Teen Skate Party. That's going to be at Wheels Family Fun Center at 7 o'clock,
Okay.
7 to 10, and the event costs $7.
Okay. Brian, tell us about that basketball.
Well, we have a partnership with the city, with the Old School Alumni Association. We've been doing basically a big reunion of all the schools, Durham, High, Riverside, Southern, and all the schools of people who have historically attended Bimbé. So we created a partnership where the Old School Alumni Association, we push people to Bimbé events, and Bimbé has created some events and provided some resources for us. So Thursday of that week, we have a Old School Alumni and New School Alumni basketball game. And it's going to be at Riverside. It's going to be free. The city, you know, kicked in some resources in terms of food, referees, and providing the space for us. So we're excited about that event also.
Sounds like fun. Oh, okay. So, Brian, as a 97.5 DJ, you know good music, right?
Right.
Okay. So, which artist or entertainer has you most excited about this year's Bimbé?
Well, it's two. I would say it's twofold. One, I'm excited about DJ Nabs. He's a local Durham DJ who went to Durham High School with me. He went on to DJ for Criss Cross, Da Brat, Michael Jackson. He went on the Scream Tour. So he's done a lot of big things, and he's coming back here to be the official DJ for Da Brat, which is one of our mainstream artists this year. So I'm excited to see him come back. I love Biz Marquis, and I love the local acts. I mean, we have some great bands. It's going to be a lot of dancing and grooving throughout the day. So it's just a big day. And I want to throw this one thing. My son, he's going to make his Durham debut.
All right.
He's a DJ. He just turned 10. It's a family thing. So
10, ripe old age of 10,
at 10,
DJing.
that's right. So I'm excited to give him an opportunity to get out there and DJ and fellowship and be a part of the festivities too.
Oh, looking forward to it. Can't wait to meet him. Okay, Cynthia, so if our viewers want more information about this year's Bimbé event, how do they find out?
They can visit us online at www.dprplaymore.org or give us a call at 919-560-4355. And we're always looking for volunteers and vendors, so if they're interested in doing that and participating in that way, they can call us or visit us online as well.
Okay, any closing thoughts about this year's event?
Come on out. We got a new location. It's going to be bigger and better, the biggest one ever.
All right.
You don't want to miss it.
No.
Okay, well said.
Thank you.
I don't know what else I can add. But anyway, thank you so much for joining us this time. And that does it for this edition of City Life. Don't forget to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and watch us on Durham Television Network and on YouTube. I'm Beverly Thompson. Thank you for joining me to learn more about City Life in Durham.